If you take a look at this 40-year run on the dollar is designed economically to lose money every single year. So why would you save something that loses money every year? And what this means for somebody on retirement plans is that after you retire, the value of your dollar goes down and your cost of living keeps going up. To my rich dad, that was bad advice and made no sense. Again, it was different value. An important diagram my rich dad showed me when I was a little boy was a diagram known as a cash flow quadrant. And the quadrant is made up of the 4 different people who make up the world of business. So my rich dad said, in the world of business, there's E's. And E's stand for employees. An employee, he says, you can always tell who they are by their core values. And what the employee, whether the president or the janitor of the company, will always say the same words. The words are, I'm looking for a safe, secure job with benefits. That's what makes them an employee, because their core values are security. The other one of the 4 is the S, or the small business owner or the self-employed. And again, their core values will cause them to use the same words, which are, if you want it done right, do it by yourself. S means they're also solo. They're generally one-person act, or they operate by themselves. On the right side of the quadrant are the B's. And what Rich Dad said the B stood for was big business, or like Bill Gates. Forbes defines big business as 500 employees or more. And their words are different. They say, I'm looking for a good system, a good network, and the smartest people I know to help run my business. So they're unlike the S. They don't want to run the company by themselves. They want smart people to run their companies for them. And then the 4th of the quadrant is the I, and I stands for investor. These are people who have money work hard for them. These people are people who have people work hard for them. And these are the people that work hard for the rich here. So early on in my life, it was my poor dad who always said to me, you know, Robert, go to school and so get a high-paying job. And so my poor dad's core value was to be an employee. He wanted job security, promotions, a steady paycheck, and all this. And so it was my rich dad who said to me, he says, you know, Robert, if you really want to be rich, learn to build businesses. It made more sense to him to work hard to build a business, something you owned, and something you could pass on for generation to generation to your kids. Whereas my poor dad said, work hard, but my rich dad said, why would you work hard for something you'll never own and you can get fired from right away? Again, that was the difference in values. So my rich dad suggested I learn how to be a business owner and learn how to be an investor. And that's one of the big differences. On this side of the quadrant, these people here work for security. They work for money also. On this side over here, their key value that they want is they want freedom. Gold and silver is God's money. It's money made by God. And then in 1971, the U.S. government under President Nixon took God's money and turned it into man-made money. Never in the history of the world has this ever happened. In 1971, the U.S. and Nixon convinced the entire world to replace gold and silver with paper money. This stuff. Cash is trash. So the reason we have so much volatility in the world today is historically, since the time of the Romans and the Greeks and the French and the English and the Germans, every time they have taken God's money, like silver here, and replaced it with man-made money, there's been economic volatility. Now the problem is, so the dollar is going to keep dropping. So one of the reasons I can predict what's going to happen is I can predict the dollar will keep dropping simply because the U.S. government and now the euro, the European central banks, are printing so much of this trash. So you'll see gold going up in price, oil going up in price, real estate going up in price, because this is trash. So that's what happened in 1971, has happened throughout history. And the reason this current election doesn't make any difference is the only person that can put this back in place is a strong, charismatic leader. People like Julius Caesar, Napoleon. That's why they were such great leaders, was they actually replaced this with this. So there will be more this printed than ever before, which means the dollar keeps coming down and other things keep going up. And that's really what's going to happen. It's predictable. And eventually this will go to its true worth, zero. So all of you savers out there and people trying to save this trash, you're going to lose big time. To me, I've been saying this for a number of years now, silver is the biggest opportunity I have ever seen, bigger than real estate, bigger than anything else. And silver, as we're talking today, 2008, is about $15 an ounce. There's less than 10-year supply worth of silver on planet Earth. The difference between gold and silver is gold is hoarded, silver is consumed. Silver is an industrial precious metal. It is used in cell phones, telephones, computers, electric lights, everywhere. The more information age we become, the more we use silver. And what Michael is saying is that stockpile is at all-time lows, and they're not discovering much more. Poland has about 25% of the world's silver, so you know, buy real estate silver in Poland. You know, but anyway, so when people say,
Mexico too.
Yeah, where am I investing? I say I'm investing in the world. I say, what do you mean by that? It says I'm investing in a metal that is consumed throughout the world. So I haven't, and I buy a little gold, but I've been buying silver. Kim and I've been buying silver since it was about $4 an ounce, and we stockpile it. We buy ETFs. We buy anything we can in that stuff, and then you know it was what, $7. Then all of a sudden now it's 15, and we're just watching it. It is not crystal ball. You know, it is not about the stuff on television. It is pure supply, demand, economics, fundamentals. As I said, there's 2 billion people wanting the Western lifestyle. 2 billion people wanting cell phones, computers, electricity, bikes, all of this stuff. So I look at it as $15 an ounce. Oh, I think I'll wait. Well, I remember when it was $3 and $3.50, then $3.70, then $4, and then I said,
yep,
the bottom had been hit. The thing is trending up, and it just keeps going.
Is when you've passed this point of no return with all of these issues and you keep printing more money, that leads to an event called hyperinflation. And that essentially means that so much money has been printed that prices rise so fast that it just completely destroys the value of the currency. And so we're dealing with two issues right now. We're dealing with deflation in the housing bubble. You've seen housing prices still decline because anything that has to do with credit or loans is deflating. People are defaulting. That market's deflating. Yet you see prices of food year over year for the year, essentially all of the year 2010, corn, cotton, commodities, whatever, is up 46% in 12 months. And this is very easy to find information on the web, and a lot of this has actually come through price scans at grocery stores and Walmart because the government doesn't report the real inflation numbers. They took out food and oil and gasoline out of the actual measurement so that it looks better, right? So
same with unemployment.
Same with unemployment. So they're completely useless. So if you go by the prices that you see at the store in Starbucks and coffee and juice and milk at Walmart, on average, food prices have gone up 46% in the last 12 months. And a lot of the vendors out there, instead of raising the prices significantly, they've reduced the quantity size. So instead of getting a 16-ounce bag of chips, you're now getting a 12-ounce, and you just don't even know it, but you're paying the same amount of price. So there's where the 30% comes from, right? So inflation has started to come into the system through this. They're having huge issues in China in the real estate market right there with inflation in real estate that they're trying to get under hold. And so the end game for all of this, through the people who I've studied for the last few years now and who really, really know this stuff, is hyperinflation. And there's going to come a point in time where no matter how much money you have in US dollars, it's not going to buy you anything. And like I said, if you think that's far-fetched conspiracy theory, I'm talking crazy stuff, it's 30 different countries in the last 100 years.
Well, think about Germany.
Germany in the 1930s, it's already happened here in the US twice. People just don't know about it. It happened to the U.S. Revolution, the Civil War. Already went through hyperinflation here twice. The last time was in Argentina in 1980. It was one of the most recent times. And it's a very civilized country. And one day people woke up and the banks were shut down. They couldn't take their money out. The government devalued the currency by, I think, like a factor of 50% to 100%. So you woke up the next morning, you couldn't get your money out of the bank account, and the government said it's now worth half of what it was the day before, which means your house and your car and everything and food cost twice as much, and all of the money you had saved up for retirement now bought you half of what it normally would have. The problem with this is all of the people in the boomer generation who are dependent upon Social Security and that check to keep paying their rent, which is the vast majority of people in that age group category, unfortunately. Let's say you get a check for $1,000 a month and your house is paid off and whatever that may be, so it's just enough to buy food and pay for prescription medication and whatever else you need. Well, it's not going to really matter much when a gallon of milk is 20 bucks, or your groceries, instead of costing you $50 a week, cost $500 a week, because the amount of money that you get in that check is still going to be $1,000 every month. The amount of money that you have in your savings account or your portfolio, investment portfolio, is going to stay the same, but the value of it is going to have dropped like a rock. So it's going to buy you 10% of what it would have normally bought you today. And that's the real issue, is if you have money in your bank account and it's in US dollars, my personal feeling and the feeling of many others who follow this and who've studied this is that in the next 6 to 36 months, it's not going to be worth anything. And that's the opportunity here, and that's why I said you're either going to end up on the losing side and you're going to lose everything, or you're going to end up on the winning side, because there's an alternative play to take advantage of that, which is to get into commodities and gold and silver, and you're going to come out of that on a hugely winning side. And I'll give you a quick number in 1980. So last time we went through a big bout of inflation was in 1980, and if you had bought $20,000 in silver, can't spell, in 1971, and then you had kept it, so you bought $20,000 in silver, $20,000 in silver in 1971. By 1980, that amount of silver, 20 grand worth, would have been worth $770,000, and that's in 9 years. At the same time, the value of your house dropped like a rock. So if you had invested in real estate in 1971, in 1980, it didn't drop like a rock. I think it actually went up by twofold. But it dropped in a rock when valued against silver, which jumped up several thousand, I believe like 3,500% during that same time period. And so the deal with 1980 is we didn't have all 5 of those issues. We really just had one, which was inflation. And the other interesting part is that it really wasn't a global issue. We didn't have Ireland and Portugal and Spain and Greece going under, right? And also, people in China couldn't buy gold. People in Russia couldn't buy gold. Many, many countries around the world couldn't buy gold and silver at the time. So there was a lot of buyers for a given pile of material. Well, now there's how many billion Chinese who can come in and who are buying gold like crazy right now, and everybody else around the world, it's really globally available at this point. Yet the amount of money of it, the amount of physical gold and silver that's above the earth is relatively unchanged, and in many cases it's much less. And so this kind of result is going to be possible very shortly here over the next couple of years.